Okay, Miss Julie, it says we're live, but I'm going to pop on over to my Facebook page and make sure that that is the case. StreamYard has never let me down yet, so it's always good to check just to make sure we're not just talking to each other. I want to share you with people. Right. So, okay. And it says we're live. So welcome everybody to this week's Bold Breakthroughs. This week I'm so excited to have stylist Julie Udell join me today. A little housekeeping. If you're joining us on StreamYard, make sure that you click the link that's provided there. That will allow us to see your name. If you don't, it'll just say a Facebook user has commented. So make sure you're clicking down below. Let us know if you're watching this in the replay. And we'd love to hear your questions or comments or ahas or funny things or things you can relate with, etc. So let me officially introduce Miss Julie. Julie Udell is a personal stylist that can help you change your life by transforming your look. She helps women feel comfortable with themselves by showing them how to build a wardrobe that makes them smile when they see their reflection. I love that. Julie's been an insider in the fashion industry for over 25 years. She's thrilled when she gets to help others boost their confidence with the things she's learned in her career. Her specialty is helping women at a transition in life, excuse me, divorcing, becoming an empty nester, retirement, heading back to the workforce, you name it, she can pick out a look that is for you with the items, colors, and cuts that complement your figure, and she makes it fun. Julie will share with you the foundational elements that go into the styling. She guarantees that with a little help and understanding, you can generate more power, comfort, ease, and enjoyment with your wardrobe. I love that. That's so powerful. Welcome, 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 Miss Julie. I'm so pleased to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be with you, Heather. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, of course. So take us a little bit on the journey of how your company came to be and kind of what was your inspiration? How did you end up where you are today?
So you read that I was in the fashion industry for 25 years, and I started out as a sales associate after college, and in a small little boutique called Chico's on a little island called Captiva Island, Florida. And the owners had hired me, and I learned how to style people. We didn't have mirrors in the fitting rooms, and so people had to come out and we had to dress them and add on pieces and show them. So I quickly learned how to service people and how to style people. And it was really, my motto was, you don't have to buy it all, but I have to show it to you because you need to know what it looks like on you. And I learned body types, and we developed private clienteling, and I grew up with them. I became a store manager, had my own model in Bell Harbor shops, and did a lot of fashion shows and trunk shows and different things like that. And then grew up in retail and got into executive management, multi-store level at the district and regional level, where then I was developing teams to do that. But on the holiday weekends when I would work in stores, I was always put me in the fitting rooms, and because that's where I had the most fun with the customers in the fitting rooms and showing them. And so always, my roots are that one-on-one helping someone. And when they see the light bulb go off and, sizing them up and saying, this would look good on you, and asking the right kind of questions about their lifestyle to find out if it's the right thing for them, and then seeing that happen. And with retail, lots of changes have been happening. And I had been thinking a couple years before that maybe I need to branch out and do something else. Coaching, people development is just a passion of mine. And I had hired a stylist about 10 years ago when I transitioned from a executive wardrobe to an activewear company. So we were wearing the activewear, and I just needed something to help me on the weekends. Like, what's my look on the weekends? I don't want to wear the activewear on the weekends. I'm not wearing suits anymore. And she helped me do that, and I started doing it with friends. So when I came to the decision, like, I think it's time to leave retail, I thought, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a coach? Do I want to do these things? And really the styling just kept coming back. It's like, I love, and you are coaching people and you are helping people with self-esteem. But I love all the elements of fashion, and I understand those elements. I worked with designer-owned companies. So I worked with the designers and I worked with the buyers, and I understand the cadence of fashion and how to shop smart and how to all those little ins and outs. And I thought, I'm going to take what I know and do it, do it as an entrepreneur and do it as styling. So that's how it came to be.
Awesome. I love that story. And I love that in your bio you said, excuse me, I love in your bio you said that you like it when people smile at their reflection, smile at what they see in the mirror, right? Because that is, I had somebody give me advice years and years and years ago that she said, I never walk out of the house unless I feel like $1,000,000. And that could be in a pair of sweatpants, or it could be, in a suit or whatever it is. But she made sure that, the sweatpants weren't grungy and had holes in them, that they were appropriate for the time frame and, the environment that she was going into. But she said that our clothes are such a uniform, and they're also such a brand identifier for us.
Totally.
Right. And our clothes speak when we walk into our room. Our clothes speak before we do. Right. So I love that. And I love your transition.
Yeah. That's so true because, I'm sorry. It's just so true. If you don't feel good in what you're wearing, if you're not comfortable in it, that confidence is not going to come through. And I've been there. I know what that's like. I'm wearing something that's just not authentic to me. And I can't wait to get home because it just, and it can be a t-shirt and jeans, but it's how you wear it. Everybody has their own style.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really glad that you brought that point up, because I think a lot of women don't think that they have a style, right? They're like, I'm the frumpy housewife, or I just go into a tech environment or a corporate environment and I don't really have a style. I just wear what is deemed appropriate for that work environment. So I love that you talked about having a style. So what were some of the challenges along the way when you started running your own business?
So it's been a little over a year since I started running my own business. So the first challenge for me was, I had a certain amount of people that wanted my help, but then how do I sustain this? How do I get more clients? How do I build that clientele? And so I hired a coach, and that was critical for me to learn how, and then for me to get visible and to get out there and join some networking groups. But then even just speaking publicly to let people know what I do. And then with COVID, then it was like I had wanted to do more online work, and COVID forced that. So now how do I do a one-to-many, and how do I move it that way? So it was just, the first part was like, how do I build this and sustain this? Because I can take someone through the whole process, but then do I find another client to take them through the whole process again? So and to have that repeat clientele and to continue to serve. So
how did you work around that? How did you figure out how to make this sustainable and have a repeat clientele?
The biggest thing was to really turn it into more courses, and then to have like seasonal changes. And just like in retail, seasons change. So then as a client, now we're into another season. And to translate what I do into more of that, like, how does a coach do that? They have a 3-month program, they have a 6-month program. So how do I translate that to my clients? And really it is seasonal for people. So, I have a client that said, okay, I've just lost 20 pounds. I'm ready for spring. So it's that, having those updates, and and having that offering that, we will meet in the spring again, because it's really 2 times a year that your wardrobe really changes. And then there's those mini microbe. So spring, and then mini microbe summer, and then fall, and then mini microbe winter. So how do you transition those pieces and keep a fresh wardrobe with the basics that you have?
Well, and I love that you talk about specifically helping women through transitions, right? Like if they've recently divorced, or those aren't really times that we think about the fact that I need a stylist, right? But that can really transform everything that's going on in your world, or when you go back to corporate, or when you leave corporate, or now you start working from home, or whatever those life changes are for you. So, and now of course, everyone's wearing the COVID mullet, right? Like the business on top and the party down below. So they're definitely going to need your services when we all go back to work, or whatever, whatever that looks like for everybody. So I love that. And I love that you were able to pivot that, and that you were able to figure out how to make this a repeatable business model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. So because this is called Bold Breakthrough, so what's a bold move that you've made?
I would have to say this is probably one of the boldest moves I made, was going from a corporate environment where I used to say I had a lot of autonomy within boundaries, but structured. And so going from that environment to it's all me and it's my business was probably the boldest move I've made in my career. I've done big moves and some, made some big changes in my life, but this one was, being an entrepreneur, something I've always wanted to do and was always respected and in awe of people who did it. And then doing it myself was like, whoa. So it's got to be the biggest one.
I totally agree. So when you get into entrepreneurship, for those of you who haven't done it, when you go from a corporate environment into entrepreneur, most of the time we run headfirst into that. We're so excited. I don't have a boss anymore. I don't have the structured hours. I can work from home. I have all this freedom. But then you realize that your support system's gone, right? There's no HR, there's no marketing, there's no tech support. That's you. You are the sales department. And I found for myself that it was kind of like walking into a snow globe every day in my office. And I think, there's no one here to tell me what my deadlines are. There's no one here to tell me where I fit into the whole piece of this, because I am the whole piece of this now. So I totally agree. Moving into entrepreneurship is a super bold move. So, and we're so glad that you did it.
Thank you. I am too.
So, what's your bold vision for your company, like going forward? Where do you see this kind of, morphing into?
That's a really good question, because there were ideas and now it's coming more into fruition. So it's the online one-to-many, having courses. So I'm launching my course again at the end of this month. It's a 5-week course. And then to be able to offer that digitally as well, and then have private clients and VIP days and things like that. But really be able, my bold vision is to have, a group of people I'm working with at one time and walking them through and getting them through that, discovering their style and having a wardrobe that really works for them, and then continuing on with that and identifying their brand with authority and confidence. So moving it from the one-to-one clienteling that I started out to the one-to-many. I want to have my own studio, a YouTube channel. So those are some of the things that I'm working on now is, I'd love to, once COVID is done, have a studio where I can have events with clients and I can have photo shoots in that studio and different things like that. So those are long-term goals that I have.
I love that. And the reason I like to ask entrepreneurs, especially this question, is because I think as an entrepreneur, especially when you're relatively new to being an entrepreneur, is we think about just getting the basics down, a website or Facebook or whatever, just the basics, but we don't really think long-term and don't really get into that like juicy, meaty thing of, oh, that's right, I got into this because it was my dream. But what does that dream look like now? So I love that you've got a vision for yourself long-term. I love that. Awesome. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That's a really good question too. And this is years ago, but it's one that I just never forget about. I was at a crossroads, it's before I got into retail, about what to do with my career. And I was working at a resort and they wanted me to get into management. And then I decided I was going to go spend the summer somewhere. And a friend of mine was like, you need to stay put and you need to figure out what you're going to do. And like running away for the summer and then coming back, then what are you going to do? And I was like, You're right. And I'm a spiritual person, so I believe in guidance and I believe in, and she said, you just need to stay put and see what the universe is going to unfold. And within weeks, I was offered the job at Chico's, and that catapulted my career by just making the decision, like, I'm going to stay put and I'm not going to take off for the summer and do something. So that was the best advice I ever got. And sometimes sometimes I just want to get in there and fix it and make it happen. And sometimes it's like, no, just stay put and ask for guidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I love that you listen to that as opposed to blowing her off and saying, you know, what you talked about, I'm going to go forward with this. So yeah, I think a lot of times our biggest lessons sometimes come in the quiet, right? So I love that she, you know, because your inclination was like, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to, you know, do this fun thing and then I'll come back and this stuff will be waiting. And she's like, no, just stick around and wait and see what comes to fruition.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
It was a great
moment. Yeah. And it's not, and I think this is important to note that it's not as if it was this big monumental, you know, piece of advice that you hear over and over again, you know, get into action or get out of your own way or whatever it is. But it was just a friend just inviting you to kind of just sit tight and you know, see what happens. So I love that. Sometimes our biggest lessons can come in the smallest of words. So what is something that you credit for your personal growth or a habit that you think has been instrumental in your success?
Especially since I have stepped out into my own business, is morning prayer and meditation. And I know that looks different for everyone, but that's how I set up my day. And if I miss it, I can tell. And you can start your day over at any time. So you can always go sit down and have a cup of coffee. And I have a little spot in my living room. And it really is the best habit that I have. It's how I set up my day. And, you know, it's about a half hour of time. Sometimes I get up extra early for it because I have a busy day ahead, but I don't miss it. And I don't, you know, I try not to miss it at all. And it's just the best. It's the best habit for me.
Yeah. And I've heard that over and over again about the meditation component. And I know that's certainly been instrumental for me. And it's a way for you to get a hold of your day before your day gets a hold of you.
Yes.
Because I think that we're really good at getting up and you've got to be, you know, doing emails and doing this. I mean, there's a lot of times when I don't even check my emails till 11 o'clock because I'm focused on doing other things that are my agenda, whereas emails are someone else's agenda for me for the day. So I love that you start out in that quiet time and realize how valuable that is for you in your business. So yeah, looking back, what is something that you've done that you're really glad that you did do, or what's something that you look back and you think, I kind of wish I would have done that differently?
Well, I'm really glad that I listened to my friend. I would have to say that because that door opened up, and I think that's, you know, that because it was a real turning point for me that happened. So I'm really grateful that I listened and took a leap because I had no idea if this was gonna, you know, I went from making a lot of money to retail, not making a lot of money at first. You know, I had to build up my career. But it was right for me because that I have a heart of service and I love working with people. And I transitioned that into when I became a leader of hundreds of people, you know, they were then my customer, you know, my associates were my customer. So I think just taking that leap of faith and going into retail when I had no idea what was in front of me. And it just turned out to be, you know, I learned so many lessons throughout that whole thing of just with leading people and working with people. And it always comes down to service. You're serving somebody. You know, if you're in a sales associate, you're serving your customer. When you're in management, you're then serving, your people that work for you. And now I'm serving people again. And even in, my networking, and I use, the people I network with now, I think of them as my old peers who I used to leverage my peers who I worked with. Like you said, the marketing department, the buying department, now we leverage other directors. And so now it's, who are my peers in my industry and who I network with that we can leverage and support each other too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you touched on something that's really important. It's something that has been instrumental in my success, is letting go of the outcome. Like, you had no idea what that looked like before you made that leap. You had a general idea, you had a plan, you had intent, but you didn't know where that was going to take you, and you went. And that is hugely bold, because there's so many times in our lives where we don't even get started because we've already pictured what the outcome's going to be, and it's not looking good, right?
Right.
So if you can take some time and think, I have no idea where this is going to go, but I'm going to take the leap and we'll see what happens. And like you said, there's very few things in life that are permanent or fatal. And if you let go of the outcome, it just gives you a whole lot more freedom. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can plan. We all have to make plans, right? We can plan. We just can't project what the outcome is. And when I don't project the outcome, it's way better than what I might think it is or should be, right? That's it.
I love that. Okay, that's a writer downer. Plan, do not project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you bring up another really good point, that a lot of times it's way better than what we think, because we're human, and there's a human component in there. We always think the worst, right? We always think the worst is going to happen. But what if it didn't? What if the best thing happened? If you let go of the outcome, then you're not tied to that. I love that. Yeah. I love that. That's such a great reminder for people. So what are some things that you're feeding your brain? You have, favorite authors or podcasts or books or quotes? Or I love to pick people's brains, because I'm such a consumer of knowledge, and I think most people are, that I'd love to hear what's going on in your world.
I love podcasts. So I listen to all sorts. I think some of my favorites are Malcolm Gladwell, The Revisionist History. I love how he loops the story and then comes back. He ties it up with a bow at the end. He's just so good about telling a story and then weaving all these different things, and then they all come together. So I think he's one of my favorites. I love Mark Maron. WTF, he's a comedian, and he interviews mostly comedians, but he's so raw and honest, and not just funny, but like raw and honest with life and where he's at, and just always kind of level sets you, and so I love him. And I love science fiction, so I just discovered this author, Xijing Li. He's Chinese, and he writes, it's Remembrance of Earth's Past, but it's a trilogy, and it's about, I don't think he's an astrophysicist, but I think he's got his mind is an I think he has a love for astrophysics, and it's very deep, and there's esoteric to it. It's so fascinating. So I read the first book, and now I've got the second and third book coming. So I love science fiction, and so this is kind of about mankind, but there's some aliens in there and some other fun things going on. So
you're very broad. I love that. You've got like the rock comedy going on, but you've also got the Malcolm going on, but you've also got the sci-fi going on. This is why I love doing these podcasts, because I think that it allows you to show your audience, as well as my audience, like a different side of you, right? That you don't get to see normally. Yeah.
Because everybody's different, and everybody has different. And so I'm really curious about a lot about people, and and I love diversity. And so I'm just always really curious about, well, where did that come? What was I watching? And I was watching a TV show on Netflix, The Dig, and they discovered a ship from like the Saxons. And so I woke up one night in the middle of the night, and I'm looking up the Saxons and reading all about the Saxons, and like they're pre-Vikings, and just so fascinating. So yeah, it's fun.
And that's on Netflix?
Yeah, it's so good. Rafe Fiennes is in
Oh,
it. Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out. Yeah, and I love Ray Fiennes too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to tell people how they can work with you. Like, can you, before we get to that, can you kind of take me through the process of when you're on in a course or when you're on Zoom or whatever, one-on-one with people? What does that look like? What does that process look like? Do you take your Zoom camera? Do they take their Zoom camera into their closet with them, or what does that look like?
They do. So I walk people through, and my course is the same thing. And so if it's just a closet edit, we just get on Zoom. I mean, I have a client from England that I work with, and she just set it up, and we went through her whole closet. And then, I had her try on all the things, and then we came up with looks and different things. So yeah, it's not that hard to do it on Zoom. I am doing in person. We all wear masks. So if someone's comfortable with that, I do in person as well. But you can take that in-person one-on-one and easily translate it. And then, online shopping. And so many of us we're not going into stores so much. And honestly, the pick is online. Stores are really picked over, and they've reduced their buys in the stores. So you're going to find better deals online anyhow. So teaching people how to, and so many stores have closed. So like, where are they now, and finding them. So just, if you know the stores to shop online, they have a good return policy, and it's not going to be a hassle, it's easy to shop online. So just doing that. So, and then it's the same thing, my course walks you through the same thing. It's just, I give you the tools, and then you can, do it yourself, but then there's support in the Facebook group. So you have questions and different things like that, you can go into the Facebook group with support and do it that way. And then there's the, one-on-one VIP where you'll work with me one. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I really want to emphasize this for people, that even though we are working on Zoom right now, it's super important to still maintain your brand, especially as an entrepreneur. And I don't know that a lot of entrepreneurs realize, and we talked about this at the top, but that a lot of entrepreneurs realize that the way you dress and the way you show up to your Zoom call, that's part of your branding, right? That's as important as your marketing and how, your fonts and your colors and all those things that we spend so much time on, but we don't spend anywhere near as much time making sure that, at least from the waist up right now, that we look presentable, that we look good, and that we look on brand. And that doesn't mean spending $1 million, and that doesn't mean getting all dressed up in your suit, but whatever that brand or that look is for you, it's super important that wherever you show up, you're showing up like that, because you are ultimately, especially with digital, you don't know where your little video is going to show up later, and you're prospecting clients, right? You're prospecting all the time for clients.
Yes. Yes, and it's simple things, it's knowing the fabrications. Silk shows up better on camera, than some other materials, and just a little attention to detail that is going to work for you, and then also true to your brand, knowing what your brand is. If you know what your brand is online, and what your website and your colors, how does that translate to you? And like I said, you can be a very casual style person and still show up with authority. Yeah.
Well, and I love that you also do, and this is one of the things that I think, I love InStyle magazine, and I've been reading that magazine for years. InStyle magazine is one of those really great ones that does the splurge versus steal, where they'll show a piece, and this piece is, Givenchy, and it's $4,000. But then here's the one you can get at Target, or here's the one that you could get at Macy's, right? That's more along our line
right.
in terms of budget. So I love that, that there's that component, and that you're not asking people to go out. And I love the idea of closet edit, because you're not asking people to go out and, before we work together, I'd like you to spend $5,000 on a new wardrobe. You're saying, let's go see what you've got in your closet right now and rejudge that, because from an eye of a stylist, you can see things that people that have been staring at the same clothes in their closet for 10 years can't see, right? That's the genius of working with a stylist. So I absolutely adore what you do. And I have got, you had sent over a link for me that told people how they can work with you, how they can contact you. So I'll drop that in the Facebook below. And then also a free gift for everybody. So can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
That is my body type style guide. And so there's 5 basic, I mean, really, if you go down the rabbit hole, you can find 15 different body types, but really there's like 5 basic body types. And, gain weight, lose weight, you pretty much stay within that. And there's some little tips if you're not really sure how to measure yourself to find out what your body type is. And then it gives you tips on what to wear and what not to wear for your body type. And I always say it's a guideline. It's not a hard line rule. You don't have to say, well, because I'm a triangle, I can never do this. If you love it, rock it, wear it. But they're guidelines for you, because really when you wear the right cuts that flatter your body, you're emphasizing, the positives, and you look better and you feel better. And that's where that confidence comes. I don't like, I'm the triangle, so I'm bigger in my hips, but I have a small waist. So I don't wear shirts that have ruching right along my hips and sides, because then I just feel like that's what you see. But I wear an A-line that's with a high waist and a tiny, small waist cut in, because then you see, my waistline. And so it's just showing off what works best for you. And it's a great little guide, because you can quickly identify what you are, and then you can see why things work for you and don't, so that when you do get into that closet, that's why I never wear this. And it's easier to get rid of it.
Yeah. And I love that, because I think that once I figured out what my body type was, I'm very short from my neck to my waist. So I don't wear anything tucked in, right? I wear things that are long and untucked because it lengthens the top. So knowing that, it dictates what I'm going to go out and buy, what I'm not going to buy. So working with a stylist, you guys, I'm telling you, it is a game changer with your wardrobe, because once you know that, you can zero in on that'll work for me, that won't work for me, and stop kind of this, I think we tend to think, well, I'm just not a fashionable person. And that's not true. You can be stylish in whatever you choose to wear. So I really appreciate that. And I will put that style guide goodie in the comments down below so people can reach out to you there as well. Is there anything else you'd love to leave us with today? It's been such a joy talking to you.
No, I mean, if you want to get to know me better, like, go to my website, sign up for my newsletter. I do a monthly blog in there as well. But really, it's just, I love what I do because I love helping people. And, I want someone to look at themselves in the mirror and smile. And it's really about confidence. And, it's an inside out job. But when you take the time, just like morning prayer and meditation, if you take the time to, and it's not fashion, that's the other thing, it's style. That's a whole, it's a whole different thing. It's what is your style, and describe yourself. And when you stay true to yourself for that, that's where that confidence comes, and you can be comfortable and styled at the same time.
Yeah. And I always tell people that you're a human being with a limited amount of energy. So you need to take your energy and use it towards things that you can fix, and forget the rest, right? And style is one of those things that you can fix and that you can work on. So I really highly encourage people to reach out to you. And you and I are on a weekly call in another group coaching program. And every single week, Julie shows up and she is on brand. And you can tell what her little square is, exactly what Julie's square is, because you just recognize her brand and her background and all of that. So I really, really encourage people to reach out to you and to go play with Julie, because it's fun to dive in your closet once you start to fall in love with the things that are actually in there, right?
Yes, so true. So true. Yeah. So.
Exactly. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. And don't forget, everybody, we will see you next Tuesday at noon for our next installment of Bold Breakthroughs. If you are watching the replay, make sure you write replay, and we will see you next week, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.